Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Makisha. I am a relationship coach and marriage and family therapist. And today we are going to talk about relationships between mother and daughter, adult daughters, and their mother. Okay, so I have seen a lot of conversations about this on podcasts. I have read different stories online. I have talked to girlfriends, I've talked to coworkers and acquaintances where they have talked about the relationship between either them and their mom or a sibling and the relationship they may have with their daughters, or it may be a sibling talking about the relationship another sibling has with their mother. So I've had different conversations and I've heard different conversations, I've read different things. And so today I want to take some time and talk about those relationships. And I remember talking to someone, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 months ago now. And the young lady was stating that she was currently, at that time, I should say at that particular time, she wasn't talking to her mom too much. And they have a pretty close relationship, and typically they do talk to one another on a regular basis. But at that point, I think they had gone, I think, about a month without talking. And so the young lady was telling me that she was hurt. She was hurt by the fact that her mother was not showing up the way that she had been as a result of her starting to date after her husband passed away about a year and a half prior, and how the mom was not being very honest about dating and the type of relationship she was in. And so both of the children felt that the relationship the mother was in, although she wasn't owning that she was in a relationship with the person, was somewhat unhealthy. They noticed that her behaviors were changing, how she responded to them and other family members had changed. So it was a concern to her. And when they had a conversation, the daughter became very hurt by some things the mother said. And so I asked the young lady to have a conversation with her mom and to be just very open, candid, and honest, with respect, of course, about how her mother hurt her and how they can repair the damage that has been done so they can continue to have an adult daughter parent relationship that is respectful to each other, but also one that is healthy and one that is not um, full of avoidance. And after having further conversation with her, I learned about some other family dynamics. And one of the things that had been consistent in their family pattern was conflict avoidance. And instead of having the difficult conversations, they kind of like just brush things under the rug, which is what so many families do, unfortunately. I see that when I'm coaching, I see it when I'm doing therapy. I've experienced it in my own life. I have dealt with it with my own family members. And so I see it all the time. It is human nature for some people to avoid conflict. That is what is easiest for them. Instead of doing the work that is required to have the conversations that's needed so you can have a healthy, thriving relationship. After you have the conversation, with the person, you may decide that the relationship can't be repaired to the extent of which you would like it for it to be healthy for both of you. So, I just want to share a few things for you to keep in mind when you are in a relationship, a parent child. In this particular case, I am kind of focusing on a mother and a daughter relationship. I want you to keep in mind when you're speaking to, particularly when it is the adult child speaking to the parent, you want to always be respectful. Now, respect goes both ways. I'm not stating that the parent can disrespect the child. What I am saying is just because you're an adult child, it does not mean you should not respect your mother. You can say what you have to say in a respectful way. and get your thoughts across to her. So sometimes when a child becomes an adult child, it is difficult for the parent, particularly the mother, to accept some of the choices their child is making. I understand that because most parents have a dream for their children. And when a child does not meet those expectations or doesn't live up to the dream that the parent has for the child, it can create some disappointment, it can create some frustration, it can even create some hurt. And sometimes the child does not know that because the parent hasn't conveyed it, but their actions show that something is wrong because tension is always there. Then you also have the other side of the coin where the parent often tells the child how disappointed they are in them, how they disapprove of their lifestyle, their choices, how they're living their life, what they're doing with their life. So sometimes you have the complete opposite. There is constant criticism. There is a constant, um, uh, I don't want to say degrading, but there are constant comments about who the child isn't or what the child isn't doing. Anytime you are telling a child who they aren't or what they're not, it's going to create typically resentment from the child towards the parent. And the child will grow to have so much resentment until sometimes they just almost explode or they decide they want to do what a lot of people are doing now, and that is have a cutoff relationship where they no longer want the parent in their life because they feel like the toxicity between the two is great, is greater than what they can handle, is greater than what they want to deal with. Therefore, they cut the parent off. I have spoken on another video where I don't encourage that. There are times when that is the absolute best thing, depending upon what's going on in a relationship. But I'm always supportive of a parent and a child repairing a relationship as much as possible. But this is the thing, and this is one of the points I want to make, is that part of the repairing of the relationship that requires both of you, the parent and the child, to talk about what is going on in an honest way, respectful way, in a non blaming way, and with boundaries to be included in that conversation. Boundaries are healthy for every type of relationship. Don't blame and complain. You want to focus on what you want, what you need, and what has hurt you. When you focus on what you need, you are saying to the person, hey, I need you to show up as my mother without criticism and with love, even if you don't approve of my choices and my lifestyle or the decisions I've made. It hurts me when you bring up my past over and over, my past mistakes, and I'm trying to work through them. But when you bring them up, it's a trigger for me inside to where I immediately feel rage or I feel anger or I feel hurt and I just want to shut down and no longer talk to you, and sometimes I feel like I don't want to have a relationship with you. So you have the honest conversation, you do it respectfully, do it in a tone that is respectful as well, but you ask for what you want, you tell them what you need. So that was telling them what they need. And you're asking at the same time for what you want. I want you to respect my choices. I want you to be respectful of the decisions I make. And if I make my own mistakes, I just want you to be there to support me through them, even if you wouldn't have made them. I am asking you to respect me as an adult child. So you want to tell them what you need, ask for what you want, tell them how you've been hurt, tell them how it made you feel, and you want to talk about what boundaries both of you all can agree to help move you forward. And parent, you would do the same thing. Tell them what has hurt you, why you are hurt, what are some things they have said or done to hurt you. Ask for what you need from them. You need for them to use a more respectful tone, or you need to ask, hey, how can I ask a question or offer commentary or thoughts when we're having a conversation and it brings up feelings that I don't like? When, as your mother, and you say certain things, I am hurt by it. Or when you tell me you're going to do something and I know it's not in your best interest because of life experiences I've had and because I love you as your mother, how can I voice those concerns that I have in a way that won't make you upset or make you shut down? So, parents, you want to ask what, how you can have a better relationship with the child. You want to make sure you're doing that as well. So, no one's going to blame. You're going to say what hurts, what you need, and ask for how you all can move forward together to repair the relationship. And this is one of the things I see sometimes when I work with clients or when I'm talking to people just at work, or rather, it is sometimes even in the grocery store, because sometimes people just open up and start talking to me and sharing stories. Um, you don't have to always accept someone else's decisions as your own or as your own value system to still be there to support them and love them. You don't have to accept it for you. You just have to be there and love them no matter what, as long as they're not hurting you. So you may not approve of your parents' decisions. You may not approve of your child's decisions. It's okay. Figure out how you can still have a healthy, loving relationship with honest dialogue in a way that honors each other, that honor each other's value system and beliefs, although they may be totally, totally different from yours. It's okay. They can be totally different, and you can still honor their decisions and be respectful and have a healthy relationship. It is hurtful sometimes as a coach and a therapist when I'm working with a client and a client conveys that there has been tension in the relationship with their parent or their child for years. And really, sometimes one of them have almost given up that they can even have a relationship. And the other person desperately wants the relationship. So I want you to not blame your mother or your child for um, their decisions, or why the relation, not their decisions, but why the relationship is the way it is. I want you to just ask, how can you move forward, and focus on that and focus on healing. Something I am going to do a video on in the future is about grief. Because I said a moment ago, there are times when parents, they have a dream for their children and their children turn out totally different than what they wanted. And believe it or not, kids have expectations and sometimes even a dream of what they want their parent to be. No child wants a parent that is disengaged, a parent that has men or women coming in and out of the house. A child doesn't want a parent that doesn't believe them when they tell them they've been sexually violated in some way. A child doesn't want a parent who does not see them, doesn't show up for them, doesn't validate their feelings. A child doesn't want a parent who curses them out in public, in private, who calls them names. A child doesn't want that. They have a dream for their parent to be loving, to be kind, to be understanding, to be supportive. They have a dream that their parent will love them in good times and bad times. They have a dream that their parent would be more of a parent rather than someone who is competing with them. So, parents, I want you to understand that your children sometimes have a dream for you or expectations for you as well. It works both ways. So, when neither of you are living up to those expectations or those dreams, sometimes you grieve who you want them to be. You grieve the loss of the relationship you hope would have been there or that you still hope for, although it seems very dim right now that you could have it. If either of you are grieving or if both of you are grieving, you want to talk about that grief you're feeling because sometimes people think that they're not grieving because it's not a physical death. You can grieve the expectation, the dream that you once had for a relationship, for a person. And when that does not manifest in the way you envisioned it in your mind, you can grieve the loss of that because it may never happen. I remember many, many years ago, I dated a gentleman and he later had a child. And then I learned probably a few years ago that the child he had, it was a girl, and that she is transgender and she is no longer living as a female. She has decided to live as a male. So the father grieved the loss of the dreams he had for his daughter. You know, he knew he would never walk her down the aisle. He knew he would never have the first dance with her as her father, with her being a female. And so he had to go through a grieving process. And it was difficult. It was difficult. And when parents are grieving certain things about their children, they don't always know how to express that in a way for the child to understand it without the child feeling like they're the blame for the parents feeling the way they feel. I want you all to help each other understand you're not blaming them for what you're feeling. You simply want to be able to express it. And I want both of you to be open to hearing and not defending. Be open to hearing and not defending. That is how you move forward. And if they tell you that they're grieving the dream they had, just respect that. And I ask you to search your heart and ask you, are you grieving the loss of the parent you thought you would have? Are you grieving the loss of the child you thought you would have? That's not as uncommon as people may believe it is. I remember I was going through a rough time in 2025. And one of the things I realized was that I had been grieving for many years the life that I thought I would have had at this point and the life I don't have. I was grieving that for years and didn't realize it. And I know it can be difficult sometimes to recognize that you're grieving the possibility of what could have been. So I ask you as a parent and as a child to check yourself and see if there is a possibility that you all could be grieving at the same time, or one may be grieving and the other one may not, but be very open and transparent about it just in case you are. And the last thing I want to leave with you is when a parent and a child, particularly a daughter and a mother, have a dysfunctional or toxic relationship, it shows up in so many other areas of your lives. And sometimes you don't even realize this is the reason why. I want you to, especially the parent, especially the mother, I want you to ask yourself, is this a generational pattern? In the Black American church, most of us, if you have gone to church for any period of time, we have talked about generational curses in our Black churches. And there are generational patterns that we sometimes see going on in a family. And so, Mom, I would ask you to ask yourself, what did you see in your home, in your relationship with your mother, maybe your grandmother? What did you see in the relationship between your mother and her mother, or possibly her grandmother? What are some patterns did you see, or what are some things you saw with your mother and your siblings? And I want you to ask yourself those questions and maybe write down what you saw in those relationships, because what you saw in those relationships may be influencing or may be impacting the relationship you're having right now with your daughter. Because generational patterns, they're real, and consciously or subconsciously, quite often they do show up and impact the relationship in with your child, and it impacts how you parent your child. And so there are times when you show up in a way that is to compensate for what you had or didn't have with your mother, or it's because you have made a decision you absolutely positively will be like your mother, or you will not be like her. So you just totally do the opposite of what your mother did or didn't do, because you're really fighting so hard not to be like her. Or you could be fighting so hard to be like her because you loved who she was as a mom or who she is as a mom. But it may not work for this child. Every relationship is different. If you have one child or 10 children, the relationship you have with each one should be different because the child is different. Are there some similarities sometimes between your kids? Yes, of course, regardless if they're a girl or a boy. But you have to parent that child and build a relationship with that child according to who that child is, instead of you possibly overcompensating or not doing enough because you're responding to the relationship you had or didn't have with your mom. And I want to tell you, I'm sorry if you did not have a good, healthy, loving relationship with your mother, because that is tough when you don't have that relationship, because then sometimes you feel like you lost out. You never had her there. You never had her to just be in your corner, be your champion the way that you wanted her to be. And so now you may be doing the same thing with your child. You may be emotionally isolating her. And when a child feels emotionally isolated, it is difficult for them to come back and to re engage on the level you want them to, because you have damaged the relationship or the relationship has been damaged from both ends quite often. But if you have isolated your child emotionally, start there and figuring out how you can repair that. Try to bring her out of isolation so she'll want to talk to you, so she'll want to share with you. And the same thing for an adult child if you've done that to your mother. Find out how you have possibly emotionally isolated your mom and how you can repair that relationship. Don't shut down. Don't give up. Keep doing the work to have the relationship you want. Remember, the relationship going forward may be different from the one you had, mom, when you held that beautiful little girl in your arms as a baby, as an infant, as a toddler. It may be very different, and it's okay. Work with who she is today. Daughter, I offer the same thing to you. Your mother may have done the very best she could based on the information she had and based on her own experiences. They may not have worked for you, and they may not have been the best choices for you all's relationship, but be kind, loving, caring, and graceful. And for both of you, be forgiving. Be forgiving to each other and ask the questions that need to be asked for you all to move forward. I hope this has helped you all in some kind of way. If you know a mother and a child who are having a tough time trying to work through their relationship, trying to work through their differences, I ask that you share this video with them, and I hope it encourages them to think about the relationship, the status of the relationship right now. If your mother passed today or tomorrow, your child passed away today or tomorrow, would you be pleased with how that relationship, the status of that relationship, if they passed, and knowing that you all have done nothing to repair it? Just think about that. Think about repairing it. Think about doing the work. If you are looking for a coach or a therapist, I work with, from a therapeutic perspective, I work with individuals who live in Georgia because that's where I live and that's where I'm working on my licensure process. If you are looking for a coach and you are wanting someone to help you all navigate through it from a coaching perspective, you can send me a message through whichever social media medium you're looking at. This may be YouTube, it may be Instagram, and you can reach out to me. I just want to encourage each person, even if you don't have a daughter, think about all of the relationships you have with other women, other your other kids, maybe sons, um, with maybe your father and not your mom. But think about all of your relationships, relationships that are important to you and relationships that matter. And I want you to ask yourself, am I showing up being the best version I can? And am I honoring myself and honoring those relationships? If I am not honoring myself in those relationships, what can I do to be a better individual, a better friend, better daughter, better church member, better coworker, whatever the relationship is for you, where you know you have not honored it and you want to? Children, adult children, I ask you to ask yourself that question: how can you honor who your parent is today, the version they are today? And how can you show up for them and how you can show up for yourself and still honor yourself as you honor them and who they are in your life today. Blessings to you, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you again. I am Makisha. Like the video, please, if you like it. Subscribe if you believe this information is helpful and you would like to know when a new video is being dropped. You can turn on the notifications. Make it a great one.